Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. You know the friend you used to run with back in the day, right? The two of you were hitting clubs, chasing women, whatever, right? And then you meet up with him. He has a corporate job now, right? He's a little bit different. You know, you talk to him, he starts talking corporate speak, right? He's one of these guys who wants to tell you that he's the assistant to the senior vice president of global strategy or something like that. You hop in his car, right? The two of you are making a trip someplace, right? You know your friend used to be an outlaw, but now he's status quo. You hop in his car and he takes out a map. He's researching the map, right? He is using GPS to get to where, the two of you need to go. You look on his gas gauge and, the tank is full. You look around the car and there's hardly anything out of place, right? Your friend who used to be an outlaw is now scripted, right? Both in and out of the ring. In my opinion, that's Anthony Joshua, right? He's now, how else to put it? With a nod to Malcolm X, Anthony Joshua is now the house fighter, right? He's following a script. He's doing things methodically, right? Everything is thought out. If he's in the ring, he has his hands up. He's cautious. He's waiting for an opening before he unloads, right? He's not going to dive into the water. If he's out of the ring, he's cautious. He's like the club bouncer, right? He's the big guy who looks dangerous, but who is in sync with management. Now, the friend you used to run with back in the day, who, you and him say, hey, let's go someplace. And you hop in his car, right? And you look at the gas tank, right? And you notice that you're on 1/8 of a tank, right? You're looking around his car. This guy might have GPS in his car. He doesn't know how it works, right? He doesn't go by GPS, right? The two of you are traveling in the car. Your friend has a general idea of where the two of you are going, but if you asked him for the address of the place, he couldn't tell you. He's dealing in a different metric. He says, hey man, I know the building's a brown building, right? You look around the car, you can actually tell the food this guy has eaten for, let's say, the last few meals, because there are wrappers in the car, right? Maybe a empty fast food cup or something like that, right? And of course, this friend is ad-libbing it. In other words, the two of you are traveling someplace. If there's a traffic jam on the road, this friend is willing to take a different route. This is without a map. He'll get off the highway, right? Avoid the traffic jam. You'll be down back streets, right? You'll be off course, but yet you'll still get to your destination. In my opinion, that guy's Dillian Whyte, right? These two personalities couldn't be more different at this stage of their lives, right? Now, let me just say, both guys are talented. Both guys are unbeaten. Both guys hit hard. I encourage everyone to look at the Dillian Whyte Brian Minto fight, right? Whyte's doling out punishment with both hands. But let me say, Whyte isn't defensively blessed. In other words, as you watch him, you understand he's a hunter. He's accustomed to blowing out opponents. He's a knockout puncher, right? View him like you view that fastball pitcher living off of velocity, right? That's who he is. Hold on a second. It's okay if you make some noise. It's all right. That's who he is, right? I'm expecting a knockout in this fight, right? I am. I'll say this, though. For me personally, Even though I've looked at several Anthony Joshua fights, the jury's still out on Joshua. I'm not sure if he can drive faster than 55 miles an hour, right? In other words, he's the scripted guy who, if he gets hit, if the pace of the fight gets too frenetic, right? I'm not sure if this guy has the temperament, has the vision to actually be able to make the adjustments. In other words, to me, and I'm going to disagree with Al Bernstein, a guy I admire greatly, right? Bernstein feels Joshua might be the best heavyweight of the last 30 years. I personally believe Bernstein has the right country, the UK. He has the wrong fighter, right? Tyson Fury has a chance to be special, right? Not Anthony Joshua in this guy's opinion, right? But I get the feeling if the bullets start flying and Anthony Joshua is forced to get off the road, right? To get off script, I get the feeling he might fall apart, right? So the way I'm playing this, since I expect a knockout, since Dillian Whyte is the kind of guy who, quite frankly, will drop his hand, right? He'll drop his left hand and he'll have it dangling by his side like Roy Jones, only he doesn't have anything remotely close to prime Roy Jones's hand speed. Because Whyte is daring you to trade with him. And when you get up on him, right, Whyte's not exactly rolling with punches. He doesn't have those defensive instincts. I'm expecting someone to get stopped relatively early in this fight, right? Let me say this too. According to reports, this is a 12-round fight. Anthony Joshua doesn't have experience in the second half of such fights, right? All of his fights have ended early. Let me say this too. If I went around my neighborhood and if I fought my neighbor and if I fought my neighbor's friend and, if I went to a, community gathering and I just picked out 5 guys to fight, the level of competition I face would probably be tougher than the level of competition Dillian Whyte has faced in his professional career, right? So I'm expecting a stoppage. The way I'm playing the fight, since Vegas has priced this differently, the bookies somehow are giving you a plus 750 on Dillian Whyte, right? And because Whyte is daring you to trade with him early, folks, I'm not expecting a lot of clinching in this fight, right? I'm expecting punches. The way I'm playing it personally is Dillian Whyte to win the fight at plus 750 because I'm trying to beat the casino. Hedged with Joshua in the first 6 rounds, right? I don't want to pay for Joshua in the second half of the fight, right? I only want to pay for Joshua in the first 6 rounds. Very dangerous play, but I don't see how else to work it, right? If you are fortunate enough to bet at a casino that has more options, then I would fool around with over-unders and stuff like that. But for me personally, I'm going to swing for the fences with Dillian Whyte at plus 750, and I'm going to hedge the play with Joshua in the first 6 rounds, right? Joshua, it's round groupings. Joshua 1-3, I believe that's going off at something like a minus 220, and Joshua 4-6, I believe that's going off at better than a plus 200, right? That's how I see the fight. Joshua, to me, is a bit too mechanical. Whyte is more fluid, but Whyte hasn't fought world-class competition, right? Joshua actually has the better resume, right? I'm going to discount the earlier amateur fight they had, although I will say that where that fight is relevant is just in the mental outlooks of both guys. Dillian Whyte enters the ring knowing that he can hurt Anthony Joshua. That by itself is significant given Joshua's career, right? As I like to say, I know there are different types of boxing fans. I know there's the boxing group out there that says Joshua wins all of his fights by early knockout. That must be a sign of his greatness, right? I'm across the street from that, right? The way I see it is that Joshua wins all of his fights early by knockout. I don't know what happens if he doesn't get the knockout early, right? You know, I don't know what happens if he finds himself off-road with a guy who's actually trying to knock him out, who actually has him backing up, right? So this is a fight where I'm betting the dog and distance, right? Just on an odds play, I like Dillian Whyte to win at plus 750, hedged with Joshua in the first half of the fight. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.